Open the VINNO P app to start using your VINNO P series ultrasound. The app should automatically detect your ultrasound device, and you'll see that on the first page. You can either press that icon if you've never connected before, or if you have connected the device in the past, it will do it automatically for you. So let's take a quick look at the home screen. So what you should have in the middle of the screen is your image space right here in the middle. You'll see a depth on the right hand side of the screen here. Up in the top left, we've got a settings icon. You have a patient. It'll tell you if there's already a patient entered into here and what their name is. Moving across, you have a probe indicator, which tells you the Wi-Fi signal of your transducer, and it also tells you the battery level of your transducer up here. Moving along, you'll have up in this top right corner here some information about the depth of your ultrasound machine, the acoustic power, the dynamic gain, the frequency, the frame rate, and the dynamic range down the bottom here. From the left-hand side of the screen here, you have various different modes. So CF stands for color flow, PW stands for pulse wave. The freeze button here will pause the image, and that will give you different menu options. And M stands for M mode. It's a different type of imaging where you get basically an image over time. And down the bottom here, you have a camera icon. So if your image is frozen and you press the camera icon, you will get a still picture, and you can see that it's giving you a thumbnail up here. But if your image is unfrozen and you're live imaging and you press the camera icon down the bottom here, then it's going to save a video for you, and you can see it's an MP4 instead of an image. And you can see that it's also got a little play button down the bottom of that thumbnail there. So let's take a quick look at what settings are available to us. If we touch in the top left corner there, we have a whole bunch of general settings where you can enter your clinic name, you can set the date and time, you can set the length of the cine time span, which is essentially how long it's going to save a video for when you press the save video button. You've got options for the report format, for the image setting. You can adjust it to always be in full screen. You have different options for your biopsy line, and you have options for power saving, so how long the unit is going to stay on for if you're not using it. We've got a user interface, normal, simple, and hide. I like to keep it on normal. And you can actually make, that's all the information that was on the top right hand side of the screen. You can actually make it a bit bigger if you find it difficult to see there. Under measurement, you have very similar types of options there for, setting the font size, some different obstetric measurement options there as well. Extended key gives you the option to basically change how your images are saved and stored. So up the top here, we've got the option to store AVI image to hard drive. If we click on the details of that, we can change the format that the image is stored in. We can change what kind of information is included with that image, and again the time span for any videos that we save. With network, you can connect it, or you can set up it so that you, when connected to the internet, can email pictures out. So you can put all of your details in there. If you have a FTP server that you use, you can upload your images directly to the FTP server. And VINNO also has an inbuilt cloud server, so you can get details about how to connect to that cloud service too. Likewise, if you have DICOM, here you'll find all of your DICOM settings for storage, work list, all this type of stuff that you can set up if you want to send your images directly to DICOM. And then you'll have a feature screen, which basically tells you which features are installed. So for example, on this one, we've got needle enhancement and a few other features activated. If you want to know the software version or anything else about the actual probe, the licenses and that type of stuff, you can click on the About screen here. And if you change any settings, just press the tick up in this top left corner to save them. Moving along, we have a screen where we can enter patient details. So if I click on that little patient icon up the top there, it's going to give me this folder here, which I can have a look at my past exams. This is a report here. This is a section where I can edit the patient. And this is a section where I can choose to share some of this information. So I'm going to go ahead and press the plus here, which will allow me to start a new patient, it's also going to ask me if I've saved any images that aren't attached, if I want to attach them to this new patient, and I'm going to go ahead and press OK. So for this patient, we can put as much or as little information in here as we want. So I'm just going to put in the name patient, and I'm going to press tick. And then up the top left here, we've got this screen which says patient. So with patient, now that I've got a couple of images saved, I can click on them again, and I can click on the folder. That's going to take me to the archive, and in the archive we can see any other type of scans that we've done in the past. We can click on that, and we can go to their file and bring up their old exams to review them. So let's take a quick look at optimizing the image now. So we're going to take the CF off. We'll talk quickly about optimizing the B mode image. The machine comes with a whole bunch of presets. So if we want to get to a preset, we go up the top here where the probe is, click on that. You've got things like SMP for small parts, we've got carotid, we've got musculoskeletal, and it also comes with some aesthetic presets, or if you've bought this unit for a particular purpose, we may have created a preset to suit your needs for you. So let's choose the musculoskeletal preset, and we'll take a look at some of the options for optimizing this image. So the very first thing that we can do is, I'm just going to put this on some muscles, okay? Very first thing that we can do is we can change the brightness, or the gain as it's called, by sliding a finger along the left-hand side of the screen. So changing the gain, obviously when we started it was looking a little bit like this, which is very washed out, and just decreasing the gain makes it a little bit easier to see exactly what we're looking at here. We've got a big vein right in the middle of the screen there. The other thing that we can do is adjust the depth. So adjusting the depth, again with the right hand side of the screen, just drag it up or drag it down, and you'll get the appropriate depth setting. Looking at the bottom here, we have some different options. So this first button is to go into full screen mode. The second button gives us a biopsy line, which you can use for guiding your needle. The third button is a clear button, so if you had any measurements or comments on there, you press this button and it clears them. And the fourth button along is the image optimization button. So here we've got some different options. If we press image quality, we have the option of resolution, normal, or if we need to get through more soft tissue, penetration. So by default, I think this was on resolution, and you'll see that that's actually going to change your frequency. It's going to change some of these other settings up here, so you can keep an eye on exactly what that is doing. So let's make it resolution. Then we're going to have focus position. So focus position we can adjust. It's this little arrow on the side of the screen here, and that should be in line with whatever we want to make as clear as possible for us. So if we're looking at the vein, we want that basically in line with that vein there. The next thing we've got here is an auto optimization button. So if I press that, it's going to carry out some software which basically optimizes the image automatically. If we want to know where the center of the image is, I can press this center line, and that corresponds with a little mark on the ultrasound machine itself. You can steer this black and white image. It's not something that you commonly do. It basically moves the image from side to side. If I zoom out a little bit, you'll be able to see that a little bit better. And I can see we've got T-view on. So T-view is your trapezoid imaging, or your wider field of view as well. So if we take that off, we can steer the image. It's very rarely used, this function. And then we have needle enhancement as well. So if you're going to do some injections, guided injections, you can use your needle enhancement, and you want your needle to come in perpendicular to this line here, this red line. So your needle would come in from that side of the screen. All right, so there's some of the different options that we have, and I've just kind of gone through and shown you what some of them do. Obviously the image has gotten a lot worse, so if I don't like the way that the image looks, I can just go straight back to the start or go back to a different preset, and it's going to give me a different appearance of that image. So every different preset is going to look a little bit different. So I'm just going to adjust this back to here so we can talk about color flow. So color flow is up here, and it has its own optimizations as well. So if I press color flow, it's going to give me a box, and it's going to pick up any kind of movement within that box and give it some color. So any movement towards the transducer is going to appear red. So if the movement it's picking up is going towards the transducer, it's going to show up as red, and anything away from the transducer is going to show up as blue. So if I put this box over this vein here, and we'll see that we've got a bit of flow in the vein there already. So a few optimization things that you can do with color as well is you can adjust the gain. So if I take the gain down, it's actually going to minimize the color flow. So you're not going to be able to see very much. So if I take the gain all the way up, on the other hand, it'll become more sensitive, but you might start to see too much. So you start to get a little bit of artifact there. So if your gain is too high, you're going to get something that looks like that, a lot of artifact. So you can just drop it down until you start to see that artifact disappear. The next thing that we can do is adjust the flow speed. So if we're going to adjust the flow speed for something like a vein, we might want to lower the flow speed. So you've got high, low, or medium. So let's just choose a low flow speed for the vein. And you can also adjust the PRF, which is very similar. So if you have a lower flow, you want a lower PRF. So if your PRF is too high and the vein or the artery has a very low velocity, you're not going to see anything. On the other hand, if your PRF is too low and you have something like, I'll put it on my carotid here, it'll appear like turbulent flow. You can see a lot of red and blue there because the PRF is too low. So if I increase the PRF, it starts to look a lot more normal. So that's PRF. You can invert it, which will basically switch the red and the blue around. You can auto optimize as well. So if you press this auto button, it'll try and do an automatic optimization for you. And you can steer the color flow box. So steering the color flow box is useful for when the vessel doesn't line up perfectly with the artery. And to steer it, you've got a couple of options. You can actually just touch the touchscreen and touch the box there, and you can steer it using the touchpad. So we're going to steer that to try and steer the beam so that it's a little bit more perpendicular to the artery. Just turn the gain down a little bit. And you can also do it down here, steer, so you can actually, you got two options there for adjusting your steer box. So they're our color Doppler optimization settings. You can also use your presets because some of them are set up to, have a particular frequency for your color flow, which will be better for some scans than others. And we're happy to help you set up some of those presets as well. Moving along, we've got pulse wave. So pulse wave gives you this, and we're going to do an automatic optimization. And I'll just turn the volume down a little bit. But down here, you've got the same kind of things. You can do automatic. You can adjust your PRF. You can adjust the baseline so that you can drop it down if it's got quite a high velocity, for example. You can invert it, same as you can with color. And then you've got options for automatically tracing, so you can get things like peak systolic pressure and diastolic pressure and heart rate and stuff like that. So a lot of options there to optimize your pulse wave image. So to get out of either of these modes, you just select them again, and then you are out of it. So let's take a quick look at some of the other options that are available to us when we have a frozen image, for example. So if I was to freeze the image now, I'm going to get some different options here. So the first option is measure, and I've got distance, perimeter, or area. So I'm just going to choose distance. So if I wanted to measure the distance, for example, from one side of this vessel to the other, I just use the touchscreen, and even once I've already put the marker in its place, I can still move it, again, just using the touchscreen and moving these little points around with my finger. If I want to clear that measurement, I can use this cross down the bottom here, and that should clear the measurement for me. If I want to put a comment here, I press the A, and then I just touch the screen. Wherever you touch on the screen, it'll bring up a box, and you can just write comment. If comment whatever you want, and then if you want to either change that or move it, you can use the touch screen again to move it around, or you just touch the screen again if you want to make another comment. Again, once you unfreeze, that should disappear. And the next thing you have down here is a body marker. So body markers can be useful for showing people where you are imaging. So you have different options for your body marker. Some images that you have saved and you want to be able to export them to, you know, a different program or whatever it might be. What we recommend doing is going straight to the file manager. So you can just swipe up to exit the app. You're just going to flick that one away, and you should install this app. It's called Files. It will give you access to parts of your tablet that Android doesn't automatically give you. So if I just click on the Galaxy tab and I go into Android and then Data, you'll be able to see the VINNO app, and in the VINNO app you'll be able to access all of your files. So we want to look at ultrasound images. We just click on whichever patient we want to have a look at, and all of the images are here. And from here you can really do anything you like with them. So you can export them very easily. You can save them to a practice management system, put them on a USB, whatever you want to do with them really.